I used to believe firmly in God. I was an ordained minister. I preached the gospel for 19 years. I felt this presence in my mind as I prayed. I got goosebumps as I was in communion with what I thought was the Holy Spirit of God. As I read the Holy Bible and read about the resurrection of Jesus, I dedicated my life to preaching that gospel that I thought was so real, that gave so much meaning, so much hope, so much beauty to the world. But I've changed my mind. I now know I was deluded. I was having a very real, very powerful, but mental experience that happens in most religions. Today is Thursday. What does that mean, Mr. President? Thursday. What does it mean? It's the day that millions of people believed in the god Thor. There was a gap in understanding. There was a mystery. What is that noise in the sky? What are those lights? What is all this? What is that? It must be an agency. It must be some being or something, and they named it Thor. And today we have a day of the week. We don't have a Jesus Day, but we do have a Thor's Day that millions of people believed in, and maybe some still do. But that deity has found itself on the scrap heap of history, just like when I look at the deity I used to believe in, the God of the Bible. It started for me with the simple idea that Jesus told a parable about the prodigal son. A parable is what? It's a fiction. It doesn't matter if the prodigal son actually existed in history. It was the moral tale that mattered. The ancient Israelites made up a parable or a metaphor about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and a talking snake. Look up in the dictionary the word fable. You will find it as a moral tale involving talking animals. We know that Adam and Eve could not have existed because of evolution. I assume everyone in this room accepts the solid fact of the evolution of the human species. So Adam and Eve could not have been real people. It was a metaphor, and many Christians accept that fact. They know there's metaphor, figures of speech in the Bible. But in my process, if the prodigal son is a fabrication, if Adam and Eve are a metaphor, then what about this other character, this Yahweh, this Jehovah, this Elohim character? Where do you draw the line? When we know that humans are very good at inventing myths, like the turtle in my Native American ancestry, the turtle that swam across the waters, brought up the mud from the bottom, created the continents. A beautiful story, a wonderful metaphor, but that didn't really happen. The God character himself is also one of those fictions I came to realize. Maybe a useful fiction, maybe it gave meaning, maybe it gave hope, maybe it gave purpose. A fiction nonetheless.
Do you believe in God?
Me?
Creator?
Yeah, so I'm the more I look at the universe, just the less convinced I am that there is something benevolent going on. So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all powerful and all good, that's not an uncommon pairing of powers that you might ascribe to a creator. All powerful and all good. And I look at disasters that afflict Earth and life on Earth. Volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, disease, pestilence, congenital birth defects. You look at this list of ways that life is made miserable on Earth by natural causes. And I just ask, how do you deal with that? So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all powerful or not all good. I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. If that shows up, we're good to go. Okay? Not a problem. There's just no evidence of it. And this is why religions are called faiths, collectively. Because you believe something in the absence of evidence. That's what it is. That's why it's called faith. Otherwise, we would call all religions evidence. But we don't, for exactly that reason. So I'm given what everyone describes to be the properties that would be expressed by an all-powerful being in the gods that they worship. I look for that in the universe and I don't find it.
The little children are brought in and each of them is told, right next to the dartboard is a chair here. On the chair is Princess Anne. She's an invisible princess and she can see everything you're doing. Experimenter leaves the room. All of a sudden the children stop going up to cheat. the shadow of enforcement, the sort of infusion of agency of an invisible being in a chair that sees what we do, keeps track of our moral behavior, begins at a very early age. Our brains have evolved this capacity for agency. That's the earliest God beliefs. Okay, next line of evidence. Here's what happened about 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. These animistic, simple God beliefs and sort of social religions that evolved to help us live together as a social primate species began to break down as populations grew from a couple dozen to a couple hundred individuals to thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people in state societies, from bands and tribes to chieftains and states. We needed some more formal means of behavior control and enforcing the rules of social cooperation. Two institutions evolved for that: government and religion. Government says, here's a copy of the rules, everybody gets one, and here's the punishments if you break the rules. Religion says, if you think you got away with it and you cheated the state, nuh-uh. There's an eye in the sky that knows all and sees all, and in the next life, justice will be served. That's a very powerful force for social control. Again, if it happens with little kids, you can do it with adults, which is what churches are all about.
If I take my hand and I take this knife and I start to poke it in, I'm feeling a little pain right now, okay? And some neurons are lighting up in my left sensory motor strip, my thalamus, and I'm starting to feel pain. Okay, as you are watching me do this, the same neurons in your left sensory motor strip are also lighting up. As I'm doing this, all you got to do is see me doing this, and maybe a little wince on my face, and you feel the same thing. You literally feel my pain. This capacity for empathy, again, crucial for social relationships. How do religions hijack this? This is a Filipino devotee who last year had himself nailed to a cross. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a child, I saw a lot of this, and it really distressed me. And I felt, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. But I can remember being distressed by this. And every time that this kind of thing is displayed, no matter how hardened you get to it, at some level, those parts of you that feel the kind of pain that would be induced by this torture will light up. And religions hijack this capacity for literally feeling others' pain to induce guilt and obligation. Another thing that we use are hard-to-fake, honest signals of commitment. How do you know I'm really committed? Why would you believe what I say? I need to give you a hard-to-fake, honest signal of commitment. Again, crucial to social relationships. You can see how religions utilize this, all religions. Suicide terrorism is another hard-to-fake, honest signal of commitment. It's connected with religious rituals, and religious rituals tap into another mechanism, our threat response system. They're compelling, rigidly scripted, usually have to do with cleansing and order. And they enable rituals. Again, I hope you start to see how all of these mechanisms sort of come together. We experience them like consciousness as a seamless whole, but they're really very specific parts. And religious rituals enable us to both demonstrate and have scrutinized our hard-to-fake honest signals. They communicate intentions. It's another way of communicating goals and intentions. Inculcate doctrines, forge alliances, create hope, solace, entertain. They are divorced from the original goal of protection. They delimit sacred spaces, and they exploit another thing that we're biased towards, which is the Gestalt law of the whole. Basically, what this means is when you see a flying V formation of birds, you don't see the individuals, you just see the formation, the V. Okay? The Gestalt law of the whole. Religions exploit this, creating these attention-arresting, memorable, and often intimidating spectacles, designed, again, to engage us and make us tremble.
When Christian religionists and evangelicals say to me, but you don't understand, we have a mission for you. You need to be saved. You must accept Jesus Christ or you cannot be saved. What shall I answer them?
God, well, I mean, that's the second bit of the question is very easy to answer. I mean, tell them to fuck off.